briefly introduce myself to those of you guys who don't know me. My name is Jamie Cittadino. I am the Regional Director of Operations for our Florida team. I have been with Caring People for a little over 10 years. I started as the client liaison in our Long Island and Queens offices and transitioned down to Florida. I've grown with the company, and it's been pretty amazing to see just how much we've grown as an organization. There's a lot of people in within Caring People that are still here from when I first started, which is pretty amazing. And obviously I love working for Caring People, and I think it speaks volumes when you have so many people who really have been a part of the company for so long. So we have a good group. If this is your first time participating in our little Staying Connected webinar series, this was created at the beginning of the pandemic and when we all transitioned into working from home. And we wanted to be a resource and a support group and kind of, again, if you guys are all just logging in, if you don't mind just muting yourself so that there's no background noise. But this webinar, it's been weekly, and there's different presenters every week. It's every Tuesday and Thursday. So we invite our Caring People team, and we also invite our relationships that we have out in the community, our clients, their family members. So it's pretty awesome, and we invite you guys to continue to join us every week. So today we have Camille presenting. Camille's one of our home care consultants from our New Jersey team. She works out of the Hackensack office, and she's been with us since 2019. She was previously working with helping seniors explore their options with senior living, and now, again, she's one of our home care consultants. So she's an integrative counselor, a yoga teacher, an end-of-life doula. She is also the coordinator of the Good Samaritan Ministry in her church, and she enjoys helping people through transitions in their lives, which is evident, obviously, in her previous work and the work she's doing now for Caring People. So I'm gonna let Camille take it away. And again, if you wanna ask a question, feel free to just send a little message in the chat, and we'll go ahead and get started.
So good afternoon, everybody. My topic is, where do we go from here? So things have changed a bit in our lives. And we'll just check in over this next hour or so and think about where we are. Everything that I offer you today is just something to consider. Maybe you'll just take one idea with you through the next few weeks and incorporate that into your life. No pressure. So we wonder what the post-pandemic world will be like. But really what it will be like will consist of how we enter that, each individually and then collectively. So I think instead of worrying about what all the uncertainty is, we should concentrate a little bit on who we are and who we want to be. So these are the days of our lives right now. They're the days that we've been given, not what we expected for sure. But if you talk to anyone who's lived a long life, they will tell you that their lives were full of many twists and turns, lots of surprises, some of them beautiful surprises, and some of them difficult and challenging. Whatever we're given on a daily basis is ours to embrace and to enjoy and to make the best of. So when this all started, I started thinking of what were the simpler days like, when there wasn't as much around to distract us. I think Little House on the Prairie, Little Women, people lived much more in the moment, I think. They lived on farms, they got up with the sun, they went to sleep when the sun did, they had a rhythm to their days. They planted and harvested their food. They took care of their animals, their families. They cleaned, cooked, did laundry. They did all those things. The kids went to school. Then they helped with their chores. And pretty much they spent all their days together, which is kind of what we're experiencing right now. They weren't so fragmented as we usually are, with everybody having a large itinerary of what had to happen in their days. It's a much tighter bond staying home with your family, challenging as it may be, but there's a lot of beauty in that. And one of the other things is they tapped into their own imagination and their own creativity. To enjoy themselves and to find fun in the day. I think for the most part, they spent a lot more time in the moments of their lives, which is something we can think about and take forward with us, I think. So our society has become one of where we're always looking forward. What's the next thing? What's the next thing? And we spend a lot more time concentrating on that than we do on what's happening right now, especially by the fact that we often are multitasking in our moments. So this stop and pause and stay at home has offered us a little bit of an opportunity to function differently. Okay, so one of the little exercises that I have interspersed through here is to write down what your day was like before all this started. What just was a few sentences about what your day was. And if you have children at home, I would suggest that you ask them to do it as well. Maybe you're a multi-generational family and you can have your parents or the grandparents or whoever else is in the house do it as well, because I think that in every stage of our lives, depending on where you are at the moment, you're going to experience this time that everyone is going through very differently. So, for example, I have a 26-year-old who's moved home from Manhattan temporarily. And it's very different for her than it is for me. So I think one of the ways is that, you know, her life is full of adventure, travel, meeting new people, experiencing all that the city has to offer and all those things. And she travels at a very different pace than I do to take all of that in. And right now, that's kind of all been put on hold. For me, being so much older, I've already done that. So moving at a little bit slower pace is not as dramatic. And I think if you're in a household with people all different ages, you might take that into account. Or if you're talking to family and friends on the phone, each person's experience of this is a little bit different based on their age alone. So, in keeping with the idea of not missing what's happening in our lives right now, I love this little quote: "The small moments of our lives take up the biggest parts of our heart." So in writing down a few sentences about what life was like before, you know, write down a few sentences about what it's like now. Because there will be pieces of each of those little stories that you want to take forward. And I think for me, you know, I want to remember to enjoy who's around me on any given day. And I want to remember to dream a little, because, you know, we're all thinking of how we want it to be later on. So it's important to have the dreams going, and it's important to play a little bit. You know, we tend to be very serious in our lives. And if you've watched any of those TikTok videos, you'll see that people are playing a lot. So I think that that's good, and it's enjoyable, and it feeds our souls. So some people are creative by nature, and some people are not. Not to say that they don't have it within them to be creative, but they put a little bit more emphasis on the finished product than maybe they should. So we've kind of stunted our creative side of our brain because we don't use it that much. You know, we're always calculating, figuring out, doing those kind of things. And one of the other reasons we don't use it quite so much is because we've become a society that likes to be entertained. So think about all the time that gets spent with TV, videos, memes, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all those different things. If you added up the minutes that it gets spent in a day looking at those things, you would be surprised at the number of hours that that translates into. And you may choose not to spend that much time on that once you realize how much time is being spent. So we all get the same amount of time, 24 hours in a day. And I think that quality of time spent and quantity of time spent are something to consider. There's time for it all, but unless we recognize where our moments are getting stolen, we don't have any handle on it. So I suggest to you for a few moments each day, do something fun and creative. So, you know, I would say to you, draw, but if you're a little challenged in that department like I am, then just doodle, because that's just as much fun. You know, it's not really about what you do or what the outcome of it is. It's more importantly about being immersed in the time that you're spent being creative. So lots of times what happens is your mind turns off and you're free to just roam with whatever it is, whether it's paint or it's playing an instrument, singing, getting up and dancing for a while, writing a story or a poem, things like that. You know, families, it's kind of fun to put on a little short play. You know, somebody can write it and each day, and it could take like a 5-minute sort of thing to enact. But it's the time immersed in this creative process that feeds you, and it sets your spirit free for a little while. And of course, that's a feel-good thing. So I suggest that to you. So we all need to be inspired from time to time. And once we are inspired, we see beauty, we see opportunities, and we see miracles. They reveal themselves to us like hidden gems in the day. And unless we're awake enough to see them and notice them, they go by completely unnoticed. So an example of this is, you know, sometimes after a rain, there's a beautiful rainbow out there, and how many people actually see it is very small in relation to the number of people who are able to see it, right? So we kind of have to remember to let ourselves remain awake to all these different things, and some of the ways to get there are through prayer, meditation, sitting in stillness, being out in nature, listening to some beautiful music, or contemplating a beautiful piece of art. So all those types of things will kind of quiet everything else and enable you to hear a small voice of wisdom that's inside of you. And that will inspire you to move through your day quite differently. So it's important to remember that it's your journey. Everyone has their own. There's no two people who walk through life exactly the same way. We tend to filter everything that happens to us based on our own thoughts our own feelings, our interpretation of how it is. And, you know, that's very different. Two people can see the same event and come away with a total different story of what they saw. So we have to take a moment to realize that everybody's journey is different. It makes us more compassionate and accepting of other people, but also that happens towards ourselves as well. And so, you know, I think that each of you are worth getting to know. And so I offer you an opportunity for you to get to know yourself a little bit better. So a couple of little prompts. These are kind of conversation starters for you, just to have a conversation with yourself. You know, think about what your greatest challenge in your life has been so far, or what the biggest risk you've taken up to this point. Can also think about, you know, how you feel most days, what you believe, things that you're grateful for. They're little conversation starters for you with you. So I love this quote. It's your road and yours alone. Others may walk it with you, but no one can walk it for you. So you heard it once, but now I'd like you to close your eyes and just pause from doing everything else that you're doing and listen to it one more time. It's your road and yours alone. Others may walk it with you, but no one can walk it for you. Just let that settle for a moment. So you're walking this road, and you have to appreciate all that you are as you take this journey. Right? Don't forget to appreciate yourself. When you look in the mirror, you know, how many days do we get up, we go wash our face, brush our teeth, and we don't even see ourselves in the mirror. We're so busy thinking about something else. And if we do catch a glimpse of ourselves, it's usually to say, oh, look, I got those bags under my eyes, or where did I get that wrinkle from, or something like that. But I want you to take a moment to just smile, wave, talk to yourself and say, hey, we're up here again today, you know, let's make it a good day, and see something beautiful in that face that's looking back at you. If you're looking at someone who has moved through a lot of challenges, and you're looking at someone who is ready to take on the day, and two little exercises that I like to offer you is the idea of being mindful of what you're doing. So one is when you go to have your breakfast in the morning, you know, be mindful of what you're doing. You know, try not to do something else while you're eating. So when you eat, just eat. Taste it, smell it, feel the texture of whatever it is you're eating, and be grateful that you have the food and that you're able to eat it. So I took this opportunity with this little exercise after my son told me, well, you take such a big bite out of everything, you know? And so I sat there and I chuckled a little bit when I remembered that. And I said, well, let me see what happens if I take really small bites. You know, some people take a long time to eat. So I took small bites, and you know what happened was that the taste that I enjoyed so much lasted a whole lot longer because I had all those bites. So you never know what you're going to find. The other piece is, you know, your body is always moving and it's always doing so many things to keep you alive. Your organs are always functioning. You don't even have to tell them to do anything. And so there's lot of appreciation that goes into that. And when you exercise, there's always seems to be a lot of negative self-talk about what you can't do. Try and flip that around and recognize the movements that you have, regardless of how small they are. You know, maybe it's a day where you can just open and close your hands a few times. You know, maybe it's a day you can reach up to the sky. Doesn't really matter. Okay, it's not about the perfect push-up or the perfect downward dog, whether you can touch your toes. You know, it's not about any of that. It's about being able to move and breathe. So give yourself a big hug, tell yourself you're doing a great job, and keep on going. So we always say this about children, that they're so resilient, but honestly, we're all resilient. We don't give that up. So these days, we've been shaken up a lot, financially, mentally, physically, and even spiritually. Some have been more shaken than others. And especially if you're still an essential worker and you're out there, you know, doing your task, and it's a little bit more challenging. It's a different experience for you than it is if you've been asked to stay at home and work from home. Different experiences for all of us, for sure. But I think the one thing that we can all recognize is the resiliency of people. And if we look for the stories of kindness and generosity and heroism, we have to appreciate that that's the human spirit. And we have to balance out the stories that we hear in the news about what's happening. We have to balance those out with these other type of stories, because they're both happening simultaneously. So we're resilient, we're hopeful, you know, we're strong in the face of adversity. That's who we are as human beings. And because of the pandemic, we're not meant to go back to what we were. We're meant to move through it, right? And we gain wisdom in moving through it. We become stronger and wiser. And wisdom is never gained without struggle, change, and introspection. So a lot of what I'm offering you here today are new perspective and maybe being a little bit more introspective. And right now we're called to service, right? So staying at home right now is your act of service. Helping other people right now is your act of service. Remaining hopeful and sharing that hope with others, that's your act of service. And these acts of service are what are going to bring us into the future days ahead. So we create that future as we're moving through this. So it's springtime now, not the spring we anticipated for sure. But the spring that we've been given. And we have some great tools to use each day if we find it challenging, right? So tools of gratitude, kindness, and knowing to have a steady resolve. Counting your blessings in the way of gratitude is a beautiful thing. I did this project last year where a friend of mine gave me a jar and said, you know, put in little bits of paper into this jar of something positive that happened in your day, something you're grateful for, whatever it is that you wanted to just jot down, and you fold it up and you put it in the jar. And it's not something that I did every day, just whenever I felt like it, honestly. And at the end of the year, on New Year's Eve, I took all the papers out and I read them. And I was amazed at all the different things that I had written down. And if you had asked me to look back on the year, I probably would have remembered like the big major things that happened to me that year. But in doing this, I remembered the small, really heartfelt things that happened to me during that year. And it was amazing. So I offer that as an opportunity for each of you to stick a jar on the table and get started. The other thing is kindness. So research shows that when we do something for someone else, the benefit is twofold. So the person giving gets the benefit as well as the person receiving. And for both of us, the feeling of the love that's inside that kindness is what feeds our souls. So that can have the largest effect. You know, sometimes when I'm taking a walk outside and I pass by somebody, I think to myself, I might be the only person that smiles at that person today. They might be the only eye contact they have, because so many people are living on their own. And so you kind of forget that is a really important thing. And then just knowing that you have this steady resolve within yourself, believing that you can take one day at a time and accept each day as it comes, and knowing however challenging or beautiful the day is, it's going to pass and you're going to move on to the next one. So we're all doing the best we can. I think we have to remember that in thinking of, you know, our families, our friends, our coworkers. Everyone's routines have been a little shaken up. The structure of our day is not the same as we're used to. We're getting used to a new way. And our bodies feel this. So, you know, we're craving food, we're a little anxious, we're tired. Those are all normal reactions to a big change. But there's a few things you can do to check in with yourself each day to kind of calm this a little bit. And one is just to see how your breathing is. So if you close your eyes for a second and you just concentrate on your breath, you'll notice that it's a very shallow breath. And it's a breath that is taking in just enough air to keep you alive. Okay, but the breath that you need goes much deeper into your body than this. And so if you take a full, long, deep breath, you'll notice that all the cells in your body kind of wake up and they're activated. And, you know, maybe just setting your alarm a few times through the day to remind yourself to take a few deep breaths. You will be amazed at the difference in how your body feels and how awake your mind feels just in taking in more air. The other thing is, you know, we get stuck in place. So if you're sitting at your computer working, you kind of get frozen in a position and you don't even realize that you've stayed that way for quite some time until you get up and you say, oh boy, I'm a little stiff, right? Sometimes even if you're watching TV, same thing, you're frozen in a position and you don't even realize it. And when you're frozen in that position, your muscles are tense. So it feels like a natural position, but it's really not. So you need to like release it every once in a while and you get up and you move. You know, some of the apps that you have make you get up every hour and move around. I think that's something that we need to do, even if you're just stretching in your chair, rolling your shoulders back, letting your neck go from side to side. Simple things like that wake the body up. Okay, fresh air is another one. You know, you need to get out there and breathe some fresh air. If you can't get outside, it's important to open the window You know, if it's cold, wrap a blanket around you and stand next to the window and breathe in some fresh air. And then if your mind is racing all day long, trying to figure everything out, it's important to close your eyes and just repeat to yourself 3 or 4 times, all is well. Would probably take about 500 times for it to sink in, but the more often you do it, you add to that number. So, you know, a few things: check your breathing a few times a day, move around more often than you normally do, get some fresh air, and give yourself some positive affirmation like all is well. So this is your life story. It happens day by day, minute by minute, right? So I think at the end of the day, if you can say, today I've persevered, today I've tried something new, today I learned a new skill, today I made someone smile, today I went outside my comfort zone, today I encouraged someone, today I showed appreciation and gratitude, today I made progress towards my goals, today I was a force for good. Today, I loved everything about how I acted and how I lived. Today was a great day. Your life story is written by you, one day at a time. Make it worth living. The circumstances around you. Think about what you want to bring of yourself moving forward. So one of these days, the stay at home is going to be lifted, and we're going to be out and about, and we want to bring the best version of ourselves into that new world, and it's going to be amazing, I promise you. God bless everyone.
Thank you, Camille.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay. Camille, do you want to, Angela, you let me know, should she stop sharing her screen so we could see her face now, or she could see our faces now, rather?
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay, hang on. Okay, there I am.
Okay. You actually had a question after I did the little intro on you. Someone wanted to know what an end-of-life doula is.
So that's part of a hospice program where you sit with the person who is dying in the last hours of their life. Could be a few days, could be a few hours, just depends. And there's usually a team of people that go in and will be there round the clock, kind of ushering that person to the other side.
Is that a volunteer responsibility or option?
It is, yeah. It's a volunteer. A lot of hospice organizations have it, but not as many as you would hope.
What made you have interest in that?
I took my dad through hospice in my home, and I soon after he passed, I heard about that, and just felt called to go be part of it, because it certainly would have been helpful to have somebody there who wasn't quite so afraid of what was going to happen next, because they had no idea, but to have someone there who had experienced deaths before and was able to kind of be a support in that situation, you know, to offer suggestions, to let people know it was okay to do certain things. You know, do you want to get in bed next to your dad? You know, does everybody want to get in there? You know, I had a dad and his 2 kids and his wife, and you know, and they ended up all getting in bed with him. You know, it's just an opportunity to say it's okay. Go ahead and do what it is you want to do.
I'd like to add something about that. It's something that I'm very interested in as well. I have been through hospice with both of my parents individually. And I think, you know, it's very difficult, but when you're in it and you throw yourself in it 100%, and, you know, there's no denial, but you're very present in the moment. Well, I guess I'm interested in it because I would like to show that to other people that are going through it. Because it doesn't have to be that scary, and you see the transition, and not that I don't want to say that it's not a bad thing, it's horrible, but it's I don't know, it's very rewarding, and if I can even like help someone do that, I would love it. So
yeah, you'd probably be great at it. Yeah. You know, it's just a willingness to show up with none of your own stuff, and be present for the family. And so lots of times it's the person who's passing may already not really be able to interact that much, but it's the people who are trying to let go of their loved one that need the most. So it just depends who you're catering to. It's a beautiful thing. I mean, certainly, like I said, you know, you give and you receive, but there is so much that you receive in doing that work. It's incredible.
Yeah, thank you.
So do you go separate from the actual hospice team, or?
Yes, it's a totally separate. So once the hospice team calls us in, we are there for the duration. So whether the duration is, you know, 24 hours or 48 hours, that's generally what it is. But sometimes it ends up being longer. You just, you know, because it's no exact science to it. But yeah, we would take turns in rotating through the 24 hours. So, I mean, I have done some private ones where I have stayed the whole time, but it's, you know, that's an odd occurrence. It's generally a team that goes in. So I might be there for 4 or 5 hours, and then the next. It's almost like you become an immediate part of that family group. So.
I love that. I like that jar idea, Camille. I think that's pretty awesome.
And so simple, right?
Yeah. Probably something fun to do also as a family, you know, to look back and.
Yes, I think it would be fun to do as a family, you know, like leave it on the dining room table or the kitchen table.
Yeah. Did anyone else have any questions for Camille? Any comments?
Yeah, I do. So, hi, Camille. You
Hi.
say that we should be creative and have fun, and sounds great. But when those of us who are adults and have the weight of the world on our shoulders, not knowing what the new future is going to be, and being in the work that we do, you know, close to the people, you know, especially in the care management area, close to the people that this is hitting the most. I'm a pretty creative person, and I find it hard, to lack of a better word, concentrate or want to even be creative. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I watch TV, I have diversions, but that part, the creativity part, which I would love to do now, is kind of stunted because of what I'm dealing with mentally and on a day-to-day basis.
So I think that what you just said leads me to believe that you need it now more than ever. But maybe what you normally did for creative process is not what you need to do now. So,
Try something
maybe
different.
now it's something that's just more free form than what it was before. So, like if you're used to knitting and you make beautiful things, then maybe that's not what you need to be doing right now. Maybe now you just need to be up, dancing around like an idiot for, 10 minutes.
I can do that.
Right? Yeah, there you go.
I'd probably be very good, as a matter of fact. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, don't try and create like you did before. Every time you go to create, it's something new.
Okay. Thank you.
I recently got one of those adult coloring books, and I was like 3 hours in one night. It was so fun. I don't know, my friend suggested that I do it, and I was like, who has time for any of this? But, it was very relaxing, very peaceful, kind of colored. I can't tell you the last time I did that outside of, being in school.
Sometimes it's the simplest things, right?
Yeah.
I noticed I was cleaning up last weekend and I noticed that I had a box of those, 68 crayons. And I was like, oh, wow, this could be fun. Just
Yeah.
doodle away with those.
We do have a question. Julie asked, she said, I'm returning to work after a month because of my sister's health concerns. How do I keep her safe while I'm out in the homes and being potentially exposed to the virus? I haven't been out. I'm sure, a lot of people are probably very scared and may not have a choice to kind of get back out in the community or to work.
Yeah. I think that all we can really do is the best that we can, right? So, you're going to use whatever you need to use to protect yourself. Getting back out there, just following the regular guidelines of, wear the mask, wash your hands, wipe things down. That's the best that you can really do. You can't really make 100% sure that you're fine. Part of it is to do what you can and then, have a little faith with the rest of it, right? So you can't guard against everything in life.
Sure.
I just wanted to say that every part of your slideshow was really inspiring, but the thing that I found that really spoke to me the most was your quote that was about the road, and it's your road. And I actually took a picture of it and sent it already to my 3 children in their 20s because we love to share those very inspiring quotes each day. So thanks for letting me steal that one.
Oh, you're welcome, Donna. Yeah, I think if anybody wants something that was in there, you can just email me and I'll send you the slide that was in there.
I also second. I loved all of the slides and quotes. I found it.
Oh, you have them all, Jamie.
Yeah. I appreciate it. I'm definitely going to be stealing them. I'll give you credit, though.
You go right ahead.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Camille. This really was, it was very, I think, like you said, kind of taking it back to the basics way back when. It's nice to kind of make the days a little bit more simple and kind of appreciate, you know, all the moments that we have with ourselves, with other people, our family that we're, you know, it's, I'm trying to see the positive in all of this. And I do think that there's been a lot of good to come, you know, despite everything going on. So I definitely have been soaking up different moments that before were definitely rushed and ignored. So I appreciate your presentation.
Yeah. I think that years from now, when people look back and say, what do you remember, especially when your kids do that, it's going to be something that could so go unnoticed at the moment. Like the time that mom did such and such with me is going to be the thing that sticks out in their minds.
Yeah.
And that's all about love, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Well, unless anyone has any other commentary, questions, anything for Camille or anyone in the group.
Okay, grab all over the bar here.
I think we are good to go.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks again, Camille.
We
Great
really
job.
appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll keep
Thanks for
it
hearing people.
You can. 2 hands.
Thank you.